could not be more excited to introduce our next speaker, Justin Steele. Come on down, Justin Steele. Justin leads Google's grant making in North America, but Justin is way more than that. As our partner at Google, your range in your career spanning nonprofits and the private sector is truly inspiring, and you just bring so much head and so much heart to this work that we've been doing together. Justin, I don't know, Hector, if you're here too. Hector, stand up. You two have been amazing partners throughout. Really, the true definition of a great partnership. This is the tale. So we've been working with Justin and Hector for some time. In the middle of the pandemic, our teams conceived and birthed the Google Career Certificates Fund. Justin and Hector, you've led this work across Google's division, google.org, marketing, Google Treasury, and it's just been remarkable how much we have weathered together, and we continue to see a lot of challenges and opportunities. We didn't even use the word AI when we conceived of the program, right? So Justin, thank you for sharing some early lessons from the fund, and we're just so excited that you're here.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you, Tracy, and congratulations, Karen, on the launch of the Social Finance Institute. We're so excited. And I graduated and got my graduate degree at Harvard 15 years ago, and I don't come back to Boston very often, but you all are some smart cookies. I forget just how brilliant you are, so I'm going to try to do justice to all the wisdom that's been shared. And there's so many themes that are connected to the work that we're doing with social finance, so I'm excited to talk about that. I want to jump right into the Google Career Certificates Fund, but before I do that, I want to tell a story of a young person that I had a chance to coach and teach when I was at Year Up. So I've been working at the intersection of technology and opportunity pretty much my whole career. I studied engineering as an undergraduate. I was the National Academic Excellence Chair for the National Society of Black Engineers when I was an undergraduate student. I worked at Year Up for 5 years right here in Boston. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Year Up training program. And when I was leading programs at Year Up, I met a young person named Alesia Johnson. She went by AJ. And AJ had a ton of talent, but had taken some hard knocks. She had some experience as a Comcast technician, so she had installed home internet and cable television for people, but had lost that job and was sort of drifting. She actually was a bouncer at a nightclub when we met her, and she showed up the first day of the Year Up program. Now, I, as a program leader, had studied all the profiles of all the incoming young people, and so I kind of knew their faces, I knew their backgrounds. And AJ walked into the program on the first day of orientation, and she had this huge bandage on her face. And I was like, oh my God, AJ, it's so good to meet you. I'm Justin. And what happened to your face? And she, with the normal sort of humor and toughness that she had, said, I'm a bouncer at a DC nightclub. I got punched in the face last night, but don't worry. I'm excited to be here. I'm moving past that. I'm excited for this next opportunity. And she really did great in our program. She was a solid student in networking and IT, but where she really shined was the soft skills. She just had this presence about her, this like leadership, charisma, this influence, this drive, this grit, determination. And so we placed her on an internship with Salesforce. And so she took that opportunity after her 6 months of learning and development, and she just aced it. She just aced that internship. And she got a full-time offer after she finished that internship, and Salesforce offered her a position all the way in Portland. So she was a young person from Washington, D.C., all the way out in Portland. And the offer, she was making more money than most of my staff at Year Up, which was kind of incredible to be able to go on the arc of that journey. And I say that story because AJ was in my mind every step of the way as we designed this, right, Tracy, as we tried to figure out how do we create a new program that's going to work for young people like AJ to actually cross the opportunity divide. And there's millions of people like AJ out in the market. We know that the economy is changing. We've heard about it. AI is upending everything. 2/3 of jobs require at least a medium level of digital skilling. We know that the 4-year degree requirement really burdens a lot of people in the marketplace. We know employers, we can't fill enough of our jobs, right? These things need to change, and there needs to be a structural shift. Now, Google believes that obviously technology has a huge part to play in this. We do a ton with our search engine, right? The search engine connects thousands of people every single day to jobs. But we know that that's not enough, and we've heard people talk today about the importance of employer-backed credentials. And so that's why we originally created the Google Career Certificate, this idea that you could get without a college degree, something that's accessible, gets you ready for a job fast. All these in-demand fields like data science and IT support, cybersecurity. So we created the Google Career Certificates to be able to fill that demand. And they've been really successful. We've had 70,000 people complete them. The majority of those people are reporting that they're having positive employment outcomes. But having worked for 5 years at Year Up and mentoring young people like AJ, I knew that a simple passive certificate wasn't going to be enough for all the learners that are out in the market. And so when we started thinking about, okay, we've got this Google Career Certificate, it's one of the most popular courses on Coursera, there's tens of thousands of people taking it, but we know that we're not reaching people with multiple barriers to employment, people who need extra support. And so we started to fund wraparound supports. Now, my job is in philanthropy, so I give out over $100 million a year of Google's money, and we do philanthropic sort of grant making and support. But I knew from my time at Year Up that philanthropy isn't going to be enough to scale, right? Wraparound supports like job coaching, living stipends, all those things, those are expensive. They're hard to provide. And you can't really scale it because philanthropy won't scale with you to the size of the population impact that's needed to be able to do this. So we started scratching our heads and thinking about, okay, we know that philanthropy isn't going to be the thing that allows us to scale these wraparound supports. How do we get to some kind of population scalable impact? We knew we needed to use capital. So we called up the Google Treasury team and we said, hey guys, I spend $100 million a year, but you guys have like $100 billion a year. So what can we do together to try to solve this? And we knew we needed to find a partner. So we called up Tracy and we said, okay, Tracy, what do you think? I got Google Treasury. They're ready to go. We have philanthropy. What can we do together to try to solve this gap? And so we came up with the Google Career Certificates Fund. And it was really the first time we've ever done anything like this where we braided Google Treasury Capital and Google Philanthropy into one fund. And the idea was that we would be able to offer job training providers a flexible financial vehicle to be able to cover some of the cost of that wraparound support that was so critical for learners like AJ who really needed that time, that living stipend, and that extra support. And so this is how it works. If a learner graduates from the program, makes at least $40,000 a year, they pay back $100 a month and pay back the original stipend that they got to cover those wraparound supports. Now, if they're not making $40,000 a year, they don't have to pay anything. So this is a zero, and there's zero interest, right? So we're only having them pay back the principal if they're making enough money to be able to afford to pay it back. And we are intentionally trying to work with lots of providers to give the flexibility, right? So it's important that those providers, some of them are full-time, some of them are part-time, some of them are in-person, some of them are hybrid, some of them are completely, distance learning, and so, meet the learners where they are. And in some cases, these providers are leveraging that money to cover tuition. In some cases, it's been really cool to see people actually just use it for living stipends. They're like, hey, we've got ways to cover the tuition of our program, but we want to be able to offer a flexible living stipend, especially with learners who are currently in a job and who are trying to transition and need a little bit of extra support. And so that's how the program's working. And we're early days, so I hesitate. I know it makes the social finance people nervous for me to share any of kind of the early results. Jake is smiling up there because he's like, I don't know, Justin, it's so early, it's so early. We're 2 years in on a 10-year journey on this $100 million fund, but it's been really encouraging so far. We've hit all of our enrollment targets, so we've served about 4,000 learners through the program so far, and that's where we thought we'd be. Almost every single learner who's enrolled has actually graduated and finished their training, which is kind of incredible, a testament to the strength of the providers and the dedication of the learners. We also have seen that the early folks who have gotten placed into jobs have gotten on average an $8,000 wage bump, which is really significant, and we have this very ambitious goal in this fund to drive $1 billion of wage gains. And so we've got to see a pretty significant wage bump if we're going to be able to hit those numbers, and we're seeing that, so that's really encouraging. I think the thing that's been challenging so far is the compliance rate, right? Like, how do we make sure that all of the learners who graduate successfully and the ones who aren't successful, that they all register and they all, in the cases where they should be repaying, are repaying. And we're seeing some. We've got $500,000 that have been repaid. The compliance rates are not terrible, but they could be better. And so we're really trying to figure out, okay, we were working with the Google behavior science team to figure out what's the total learner journey, and how do we do the nudges, and how do we encourage them to give. We also find that the learners who are actually successfully placed are predominantly the ones who are repaying and repaying well. So if we can get the placement rate up, we'll get the compliance rate up too. So we're working through all that. It's really exciting. I'll just finish with two little calls to action. I think the first is just to support innovation. Like, we need this kind of social finance institute. We need the flexible capital. We need to put private capital to use. We need to be creative about how philanthropy can layer in. And so that's why I think partnerships with social finance are so exciting. I think the second thing is less related to all this technical stuff and the financing and the training, and more just about our country and our mentality around who can be successful. If any of you have read Isabel Wilkerson's book, Caste, she does an incredible job of talking about the legacy of the social hierarchies in this country and the unthinking acquiescence, to use her words, to that social hierarchy. It's the usher who sort of silently ushers you to your seat. And I know, as a young person, I felt this, right, trying to study engineering, and whether people really thought that that was something that I could do or that was for me. And I know for young people like AJ, a Black, queer, Prince George's County high school graduate trying to break into a company like Salesforce, that's just a huge arc and journey. It requires us to rethink our narratives about who can be successful and who can cross that. And I was just talking to AJ this week because I was coming out here and I was thinking about her, and I hit her up and I was like, how's it going? How's life? And this is 12 years ago. I mean, it's been a long time since she did the Year Up program. And she's still working full-time in IT. She's a senior consultant at a managed data services firm. She's thriving and doing great, and that's what we want, right? Those superstar talent that are hidden gems out there in our communities, there's millions of them. And so I know all the people in this room, you guys know this. We're all kind of in this journey together, but I figured I would end with that. So thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Jake, Hector, for the opportunity. And we'll move to break.